Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us today. Today we have the CEO Water Mandate webinar to commemorate the World Environment Day, which is celebrated every year on the 5th of June. However, 5th of June fell on Saturday, so we are celebrating it today on the 7th of June. Thank you for joining us. And this year's World Environment Day theme is about ecosystem restoration. And in Nigeria, the moment you talk about ecosystem restoration, you're thinking about desertification in the north, heavy flooding in the south, the confluence drying up in Lokoja, and the heavily polluted lagoon in Lagos. And so today we want to, mobilize private sector to discuss water resources management in Nigeria. And that's why the theme for this event is about private sector imperative for sustainable water resources management in Nigeria. Today's main objective is to ensure that we can mobilize a critical mass of private sector to be part of the solution in terms of improving water resources management. And the structure of the event is that we will have the opening session, and we'll have opportunity where experienced CEOs will share their knowledge and experience in terms of implementing water resources management through a private sector platform. And also we have opportunity for collaboration sessions where we'll have other organizations sharing what they plan to implement in Nigeria. Please, the structure of the event is that we will have a fireside chat later on, and that would allow you have opportunity to ask and respond to questions. You can use the chat box where you can ask questions during the event, and our Zoom master will collate all the questions in preparation for the fireside chat. The introduction session is mainly to share who is doing what, and we'll start with a welcome address by the Mr. Laoye Jayola, the CEO of NESG. We'll also have a welcome and opening remarks by Mrs. Soromidayo George of UNGCN, that's the chairperson of UNGCN, the UN Global Compact Nigeria. We'll also have resource persons from Nestle, from Heineken, and we'll also have presentations from NFund and the delegation of German Industry and Commerce in Nigeria. Other resource persons will be introduced as we go along the event. Now I want to bring in the CEO of the NESG to give us the welcome address. CEO, please.
Thank you very much, Ekane. Permit me to welcome on behalf of the board, management of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, all of us to this webinar. And on behalf of ourselves and the United Nations Global Compact, UNGC, I welcome all of you to this World Environment Day 21 webinar, which is themed Private Sector Imperative for Sustainable Water Resource Management in Nigeria. The World Environment Day, observed every year on the 5th of June, is the United Nations principal vehicle for encouraging worldwide awareness and actions for the protection of our environment. We cannot underscore the importance of water in our environment. Nonetheless, water poses one of the greatest sustainability challenges of the 21st century. Water scarcity and pollution threatens our ability to grow vibrant and stable economies, meet basic human needs, and protect healthy ecosystems. Businesses around the world, and Nigeria in particular, face water-related risks due to water supply shortages, pollution, inadequate infrastructure, drought, flood, weak governance, and a variety of related challenges. So the theme of this event, Private Sector Imperative for Sustainable Water Resources Management in Nigeria, was formulated to align with the World Environmental Day Global Theme for 2021. And more importantly, to highlight the importance, the opportunities for private sector to be part of the solution in water resources related challenges in Nigeria. The global theme for the World Environmental Day 2021 is ecosystem restoration. And this has big implications for individuals, businesses, and policymakers, and also aligns with the watershed management objective of the CEO Water Mandate. And as we all know, the CEO Water Mandate was launched in Nigeria last year by the NESG in conjunction with the United Nations Global Compact Nigeria. And the mandate is using this opportunity to encourage the participation of businesses in the sustainable development of our natural environment in Nigeria. At the NESG, we believe that with sustained efforts from the private sector and active collaboration with government and citizens, working in conjunction with the United Nations Global Compact in Nigeria, we can support sustainable management of water resources to meet human and business needs. It is our hope that today's event will be a step towards establishing a private sector working group within the CEO Water Mandate for the collaboration and synergies toward the achievement of sustainable water resource management in Nigeria. As I encourage CEOs to sign up to the CEO Water Mandate and to be part of a global private sector effort towards sustainable water resource management, I trust that we will all contribute our quota and lend the much needed voice and support to making today's event a resounding success. I want to wish us all fruitful deliberation. Thank you, and God bless our country, Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Mr. Laoye Jayola, for the opening, for the welcome address. We'll now have Mrs. Soromidayo George to give us the opening remarks for the session.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
So distinguished members of UN Global Compact Network Nigeria, and members of the Nigeria Economic Summit Group, captains of industry, ladies and gentlemen, and other protocols duly observed, thank you for joining us today at the 2021 commemoration of the annual World Environmental Day, aptly tagged Reimagine, Recreate, Restore. I would also like to thank the management and staff of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group for partnering with us to make this event possible. The United Nations Global Compact is the world's largest citizen sustainability initiative, calling on businesses everywhere to align their operations with the 10 universal principles in the area of human rights, labor, and environment, and also take ambitious corporate actions on the Sustainable Development Goals. The United Nations Global Compact, recognizing that there's a need for businesses to have a crucial role to play in the achievement of the SDGs, established the CEO Water Mandate to mobilize business leaders on water, sanitation, and the Sustainable Development Goals. This year's World Environmental Day is deeply significant to us at the UN Global Compact Nigeria, and indeed to the world at large, on several levels. As the first in the wake of a pandemic that ravaged the world on an unprecedented global scale, exposing grave lapses in our collective progress towards achieving the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, it provides a golden opportunity for us to reflect, to strategize, and to redesign a truly effective sustainable business approach going forward. The global theme for this World Environmental Day, as you've heard Mr. Laoye say, is ecosystem restoration. And in line with this theme, the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration will be launched this year. And at the UN Global Compact Network Nigeria, we have also recognized an imperative to turn the corporate focus again to the key issue of water sustainability. With over 70% of our Earth's landmass covered in some form or shape by water, it is easily the most significant element of our global ecosystem and an absolutely crucial resource for both life and business. Yet, with water use and conservation comes some of the greatest sustainability challenges of the 21st century. Water scarcity and pollution threaten our ability to grow vibrant and stable economies, meet basic human needs, and protect healthy ecosystems and the services that they provide, whilst also posing severe human health challenges. Businesses around the world face water-related risks due to water supply shortages, pollution, inadequate infrastructure, drought, flood, weak governance, and a variety of related challenges. Thus, it is very fitting that the global theme for the World Environmental Day aligns with the Watershed Management objective of the CEO Water Mandate, which was launched in Nigeria in 2020 by the UN Global Compact Network Nigeria and NESG. The mandate is a commitment platform, as you've rightly heard, for business leaders and learners to advance water stewardship by endorsing 6 core elements of water and reporting annually on progress. And I'm happy to see major stakeholders here today on the panel: Nestle, Heineken, Coca-Cola, and other esteemed guests. The UN Global Compact Network Nigeria and the NESG, again, we collaborate today, again, to commemorate this year's World Environmental Day by engaging the private sector towards viable water stewardship. And this is why we're here today on this webinar, themed Private Sector Imperative for Sustainable Water Resources Management in Nigeria. I look forward, and we all look forward, to a highly productive round of conversations, and more importantly, to the progressive implementation of action points that we expect to be raised here today. Thank you very much, and welcome once again.
Thank you very much, Mrs. George, for the wonderful opening remarks. Now, we've had Mr. Jayola talk about how the private sector can really be part of the solution in terms of improving water resources management in Nigeria. And we've also had Mrs. George refer to the challenges we have in terms of flooding, drought, pollution, and other negative impact in terms of water resources in Nigeria. And so the NESG Water Thematic Group, thought through the spectrum of private sector participation in the water sector. And we'll have a presentation from Pedi Obani, who will be looking at the private sector and sustainable development, so sustainable water resources management in Nigeria, a summary statement. And this statement is from the Water Thematic Group of the Infrastructure Policy Commission of the NESG, looking at the entire spectrum and the opportunity where private sector can collaborate with government and the civil society for the improvement of water resources management. Pedi, please, if you have your slides, you can project them now.
Thank you very much, Akanem. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation. Over the next few minutes, I'll basically be walking us through what the private sector can contribute in terms of sustainable water resources management in Nigeria. Of course, this is familiar territory because we are all doing something in connection with this. But I think the idea is to reflect more deeply into possibly new opportunities which we could go into and then harness the experiences we've already gathered so far within the space of sustainable water resources management in our various operations. So the outline of the presentation essentially will start with just looking at very briefly what the elements of sustainability are, those key elements which we should always bear in mind, as we go forward in these conversations. And then, of course, as with everything in life, there's always not so good news and then there's good news. So we'd like to start with the risks, which would be the not so good news. But then we'll see as we go forward with the opportunities that this risk can actually be converted into very strong opportunities for private sector intervention towards strengthening sustainable water resources management in Nigeria. Now, in terms of the elements of sustainability, we also talk about the economic, social, and environmental pillars of sustainable development. But within the broader context, there's also the important aspect of governance, the institutional aspects. Experiences with the Water Resources Act, for instance, the recent efforts to try and amend the laws, review the legal framework, show that governance is a very important aspect of achieving sustainable water resources management in Nigeria. And as such, it becomes an imperative that as we think about sustainable water resources management, we need to go beyond the traditional scope of what is the economic aspect of this, what is the social aspect, what is the environmental aspect, to also think about the governance issues, the institutional aspects, and where our operations sit in the midst of all this. And very importantly, it's therefore about ensuring that in looking at the economic, social, and institutional aspects, the environmental issues are also well represented. So ecosystem restoration, environmental protection, ensuring that there's conservation then becomes very important even as we pursue economic, social, and institutional goals. Now, what are the risks? In terms of the risks of sustainable water resources management in Nigeria, one essential thing we cannot shy away from, which isn't unique to Nigeria, but is perhaps something that the water sector all over the world has to grapple with, is that the provision of water services is essentially a natural monopoly. This means that the initial upfront costs are really high, and this could scare away investors. So this is something that is there, but there are ways around it. And this is a risk that, if surmounted, can actually ensure that there's more competition, there's room for more players to come in. Another risk that has affected the water sector in Nigeria is profit maximization. Very often the private sector is looked at with some suspicion because everyone, well, not everyone, but most people always consider that the private sector's main incentive is profit maximization. And this may possibly be incompatible with other goals, other more socially oriented goals like the human rights to water, universal access to everyone, and such socially oriented goals. Now, the idea would then be for the private sector to position itself in such a way that profits can be maximized without jeopardizing these socially oriented goals, or more importantly, without jeopardizing universal access. Because indeed, with the water sector, as with most other amenities and basic needs in the society, we are only as strong as our weakest link. Experiences with COVID has shown this very clearly. If we have a large percentage of the population without access, it becomes a problem. So rather than see this as a barrier or as a risk, we could actually see the large population as a way of improving returns. And it would then be about thinking of innovative ways of reaching this unserved population. And indeed, this can be achieved through, for instance, thinking very critically about how to ensure that subsidies are applied in a way that maximizes the reach for those who are least able to afford access for themselves, while those who can afford can actually then pay themselves and not enjoy subsidies. So there are ways to think around this risk of profit maximization to actually strengthen private sector participation in the water sector. Thirdly, there's the issue of a power asymmetry between the private and public sector. Very often it is considered that the public sector and the regulators in this case are probably not well positioned in terms of technical capacity, financial capacity to regulate as well as can be. And this very often creates room for suspicion when the private sector gets involved in water provision, water services provision. Again, this leads to some of the opportunities which we'll be discussing today. Now, the first opportunity which I'd like us to consider is the role of the private sector as a driver. I'm going to present these opportunities through a four-dimensional framework. So there's a role of the private sector as a driver, there's a role of the private sector as a supplier, there's a role of the private sector as a consumer, and also the role of the private sector as an investor. So all of this presents ways of thinking of the opportunities through which the private sector can contribute to sustainable water resources management. Starting with the driver role, the private sector can actually use its expertise, technical know-how, and long years of experience in the water sector to promote research and development that tries to tackle these critical challenges to sustainable water resources management. So things like How much water do we actually have? Where is the water? How can it be accessed? What are the challenges to accessing it? What are the innovative technologies which can be applied to overcome those challenges? How can we move beyond importing these technologies to actually homegrown innovations, which can be managed at the community level and then minimize the cost of operation and maintenance? All of these are aspects of research and development, which the private sector can actually drive. Again, when it comes to water use and reporting standards, while this sits within the remit of the regulators, the private sector can drive the process through its own self-regulation. So by providing some kind of capacity development opportunities for the regulators, and also by providing some kind of insight into their current usage, their current challenges in terms of water reporting standards, water use, and also by drawing from the experiences, especially when it comes to multinational companies, by drawing from the experiences in other jurisdictions and frameworks that have been used to strengthen water use and reporting standards, the private sector can actually drive the standardization process within the Nigerian economy or the Nigerian sector, Nigerian water sector. Again, when it comes to watershed sustainability, it's something that the private sector can drive, not only as a manager, but also through providing technical capacities to strengthen the process. So a lot of opportunities arise when we think about the private sector as driving the process. Of course, when it comes to social capital, a lot can be gained through driving the process. Secondly, we can think about the private sector as a supplier. And I think this is something that we are already very often encounter, in terms of the provision of water services, waste management services. But I think another other aspects to consider is that we have a wide range of services that are probably not being fully tapped into at the moment. So right from abstraction to recharge, there's a full value chain which the private sector can critically consider ways of entry into the sector. So beyond endpoint provision, beyond treatments when it happens, there's actually more engagement with the environment, with the ecosystem, such that the private sector positions itself to improve the quality of the water and also improve the sustainability process, so that our usage of water does not unnecessarily increase environmental footprint. So all of these are ways in which the private sector as a supplier can still contribute to the process of sustainable water resources management. And of course, in doing all this, it's about considering availability, it's about considering quality, it's about considering accessibility, it's about considering affordability and acceptability. And if we're able to consider all of those components, then the private sector is better able to position itself as an enabler of even global goals such as the human rights to water and sanitation, and then sustainable development goals relating to water and sanitation services. So these are all opportunities that can be harnessed with the private sector as a supplier. Beyond this, the private sector, of course, is also a consumer of water. And within this context, the private sector as a consumer can contribute again to sustainable water resources management by ensuring endpoint efficiency, by supporting reuse, by supporting conservation. And all of these are also tied into the other roles of driver, supplier, and now consumer. And finally, the private sector as an investor. In this context, the private sector actually has a lot of room to think about socially and environmentally responsible investment. Because again, if we think about the apathy towards private sector involvement in the water sector, it is very often because the private sector is considered as not being responsive to the social aspects, to the environmental aspects of water service provision. It is very often considered as thinking only about the economic space. So if the private sector can rebrand itself and rebrand its operations in a way that actually ensures that investments not only speak to environmental, economic aspects, but also speak to socially and environmentally responsible goals, then this again strengthens the contributions of the private sector in the space. Other opportunities exist in advocacy and awareness raising, because of course the private sector is already doing a lot. And maybe there is opportunities for the private sector to then amplify what is being done, within its specific operations, and then even think about ways how they can be upskilled scaled, because like it or not, it goes beyond doing something good, but it's also important to show what is being done, the impact this is having, and this language needs to be understood at the grassroots level. Again, this leads to the issue of partnerships. So the private sector also has an opportunity to think about partnership in terms of investment. So partnerships could be investing and partnering with local businesses. It could be even partnering with local communities. And all of this provide opportunities of ensuring that these investments are protected because they are seen as contributing meaningfully to achieving the realization of people's deeply seated values, people's deeply seated expectations in the space of water resources management. Now, with all this, the summary statement, which is what we've been asked to present today, is that there are inherent risks. But beyond this risk, there are also significant opportunities for the private sector to support sustainable water resources management in Nigeria. Secondly, once the private sector is able to integrate social, economic, environmental, and institutional sustainability, there are a lot of opportunities that can be realized. Now, these opportunities can be understood through the four-dimensional framework that has been presented this morning. Thinking about the private sector of integrating sustainability in its operations as a driver, as a supplier, as a consumer, and an investor. And we hope that going forward, we're able to put into place mechanisms that will allow us harness, the opportunities that lie in this dimensions of the private sector involvement. So the private sector, not only as a supplier, which is very often how we conceive of the private sector within the Nigerian and water sector space, but also as a driver, as a consumer, a responsible consumer, and an investor. And by doing all this, we'll be going more towards the private sector showing a strong commitment to water stewardship in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Preddy. I think that has really laid the foundation for discussions today. Private sector as a driver, a supplier, consumer, and investor. I think questions are already coming in, mainly around your presentation, and we'll just hold on till we get to the fire chat session. The next session is on the CEO Water Mandate in Nigeria, the strategic plan. I will be presenting that now. It's mainly around a summary of what the plan is for the next 3 years. But mainly starting with the global plan, which is the CEO Water Mandate Global Plan for the next 3 years. And we've developed something, to start that in Nigeria and what we can achieve in the next 3 years. Hope you can see my screen.
Yeah, it's clear.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, just as an introduction, the CEO Water Mandate is a UN Global Compact commitment platform for water. And so you have leaders from the private sector committing to water stewardship. And so this platform is created for private sector to show commitment, but also be part of the solution for water resources management. It was launched in 2007 by the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and was endorsed, it has been endorsed by over 170 companies so far. It was launched in Nigeria in 2020, and in Nigeria, we're looking forward to engaging the private sector to be part of the mandate, and this event is one of those engagement process. The global strategy, I'll just move on to the global strategy itself, which is focused on facilitating innovative and delivering leading edge thinking. The private sector is saying, look, we want to ensure we dig deep, do a lot of research, use our tools and processes and our expertise to ensure that we deliver leading edge thinking with respect to water resources management. Private sector also wants to scale responsible practice and drive resilience. Now, basin resilience is one thing we have to also think about in Nigeria, which is one of the things we're going to draw down from the global strategy. The third component of the global strategy is to raise the profile of water and shape the enabling environment. That will be shaping the enabling environment in terms of policies, strategies, and regulations. That is the global plan. We're also working on looking at the Nigerian plan. We've developed something that we think can be feasible within the next 3 years. First is to raise the profile of the CEO water mandate and engage business leaders. And this event is one of those activities we want to look at to see how we can mobilize the private sector. However, there's another event we'll announce later, which is about signing up to the mandate, and we'll engage private sector, particularly business leaders, to ensure that they're part of the solution and also bring in their expertise to water resources management. That would include, having events, commissioning some research, but also looking at where we have impacted most and what is impacting the bottom line of businesses. The second component of the Nigerian strategy is about facilitating documentation of water-related risk in Nigeria. Now, we mentioned a lot of risk, starting from flooding to drought, to pollution, but I don't think we have enough data. What is happening? Where is it happening from? When is it happening? Who is getting impacted? How much of impact do we have? And so if we can look at the impact based on basin level, or what we can call hydrological areas across Nigeria, which we have about 8 hydrological areas in Nigeria and sub-basins, we can now be able to quantify, but also have some boundaries and some control within the impact. That way we can develop research or commission some research where we can start looking at solutions and also look at businesses that have been getting impacted, but also the impact of the social environment, who is getting impacted, what number of people. We need to start getting data, because without data, we cannot really start developing the solutions for sustainable water resources management. So that's a summary of the plan for Nigeria. This is something we have to develop as a group when we start working together using the working group we're going to set up very soon. And we look forward to distilling this to activities where we can start implementation. But the focus is one, raising the profile of the mandate and getting business leaders to sign up to the mandate. Then secondly, is to get enough data. And that means we commission some research to have data on where the risk is happening, where the risks are highest, and who is getting impacted. Please, I see some questions again. You can just keep your questions till we get to the first chat session. The next session is on best practices on water stewardship in Nigeria. We'll have some companies that have already been implementing water stewardship, and then we want to have them present best practices and share their knowledge and experience. And so we want to start with Nestle Nigeria. Nestle Nigeria has been very active in CEO water mandate globally and in Nigeria. And we have Wasim El Husseini, who is the CEO of Nestle and also part of the board of Nigeria Economic Summit Group. Wasim, please, if you have your slides ready, you can project them now.
Thank you. Thank you, Gabriel. I think the slides will be projected from your side. But look, before I start, I want to thank Dr. Petty for her words. They reminded me actually with the words of our zone CEO, Chris Johnson, in the latest market conference, where he said clearly to all the country managers that this is not an investment in growth versus investment in sustainability, and it's not about generating profit or investing in sustainability. It's about investing smartly in projects that help drive growth. Yes, we should be able to do that and deliver profit. So let's not debate whether we should do it or not, but put all our thoughts and efforts into how we do it. This is a legacy that we will leave to the future generations. So you were spot on, Dr. Petty. If we go to the first slide, I would like to reinforce our corporate belief and also commitments on water. For us, water is a shared and precious resource that is essential for life. Communities need water to survive and thrive, and businesses also depend on water. At Nestlé, we recognize that the long-term success of our company is built upon sustainable access to water in the regions where our raw materials are sourced, where our factories are located, and where our suppliers and consumers live. This is, for us, the belief in water stewardship. We also believe that the access to water and sanitation is a basic human right. Together with other water users and partners, we are committed to managing water resources in a way that is ecologically sustainable, socially equitable, and economically beneficial. Our commitment to water is okay, we strive for zero environmental impact in all our operations. We are dependent upon forests, soils, the oceans, and the climate to deliver a sustainable supply of resources for our operations. We have set commitments and objectives to use and manage resources sustainably by operating more efficiently, responding to climate change, reducing food loss and waste, and caring for water. I will be putting down in the chat box a link if you need more information about how Nestlé cares for water. So today what I will do is I will focus on 3 of the core elements of the CEO mandate. And why those 3 is because we have gone a bit far in supporting them in the activities that we do around them, but I will also touch base on the other 3. So starting with the direct operations. At Nestlé, we set year-on-year water reduction targets, even with the increasing production volumes and the demand on those volumes. Rinsing water from Nestlé Water's production is pumped into our firefighting reservoirs, which provides support to community firefighting. An example would be for Ogun and Lagos State, as well as other companies around our facilities. And it happens quite frequently that we as Nestlé would jump and help in the firefighting. We harvest rainwater into this same reservoir to also reduce water extraction from the aquifer. Wastewater is treated up to Class B, colorless, odorless, and can support life as checked in the fish pond before discharging into the surface water. The quality of the discharged wastewater meets national standards. We reuse wastewater effluent on the water cooling towers to reduce water extraction from the aquifer. Before moving forward, just to touch quickly upon supply chain and watershed, at the local level here, as part of the farmer capacity building initiatives, we provide training and support to farmers within our value chain on water quality, on reducing water usage, as well as retaining soil moisture. So if we go to the next slide, the second big element would be on collective action. Now, at a global level, Nestlé advocates for effective water policies and stewardship by engaging in and supporting public policy dialogues, such as the 2030 Water Resources Group, the Alliance for Water Stewardship, and of course, the CEO Water Mandate. In Nigeria, locally, we are collaborating with other stakeholders, today being a case in point. We are working with the Federal Ministry of Water Resources and Ogun State Water Management Board to secure and sustain water resources already provided in communities around our operations. Water education for children in primary schools, what we call internally as Project WET, and also nutrition for healthier kids, is delivered in partnership with the Ministries of Education and Health, as well as the basic primary education boards in Ogun State and the FCT. Touching upon the public policy element, Nestlé publishes a global annual report, we call it the Nestlé in Society, on the progress we are making towards our commitments. So moving to the next slide, where I want to talk about community engagement. we raise awareness of water access and conservation by supporting our employees to understand and make better informed decisions that will lead to effective water stewardship. Supporting the human right to water and sanitation by ensuring that all Nestle facilities provide access to clean water and sanitation to their employees, and also assist the provision of clean water and improved sanitation to priority communities adjacent around our factories and locations where Nestle is sourcing agricultural commodities. Supporting educational programs, just as I mentioned before, like Project WED at schools and in local communities. We also have established drinking water facilities and boreholes around our locations in Ogun State and the FCT to serve around 17,000 people with over 7 million liters of safe water annually. Touching on the transparency element, Nestle reports publicly on a regular basis on the progress of meeting our commitments. These are made available on our websites. Water stewardship is too important to be a competitive area. We strongly encourage other organizations to engage with the AWS standard and system to ensure that water stewardship is the way water is responsibly and sustainably managed. On our proactive engagement on climate change in Nigeria, we are reaching out to stakeholders to promote transparency and proactive long-term engagement on climate conversation. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here today with you and sharing with you what we have been doing, and also looking forward to more participation and achieving more and more on the other three elements, core elements of the CEO mandate. Thank you very much, Gabriel. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Wasim. I think it's quite interesting how you rolled out the core work you're doing in terms of CEO water mandate, starting with direct operations, where I think you're looking at your water footprint, particularly around how you use water internally, but also treating water for reuse. That's quite interesting to note. The collective action, I think, is the most interesting one for me, because you're already doing some hydrological study, but you're focusing that on where you work. So what if we have a collaboration where within a basin, we can have private entities within that basin collaborate to look at hydrological studies within the basin, because what affects one private entity will affect the other one within that basin. So we look forward to collaborations where you can work with other private entities to look at basin level hydrological study. And the third one is the community engagement, which you've rolled out, and quite an interesting project you're already doing. We have a question for you, but I think we'll take that later on during the fire chat session. Thank you very much, Wasim, and we look forward to engaging with you again later today.
Same here. Thank you.
And the next presentation is about what where capacity has also done in the water resources management space, and it's just a summary of non-revenue water management study, which we carried out with the utility in Nigeria. Let me just share that screen now. Okay, in summary, Ware Capacity is an infrastructure advisory firm, and water resources management is one of the core areas of the company's operation. And so there was a Dream Pipe Challenge. It was a global challenge in 2017, where the UK Aid decided to put out a competition for private entities to compete and come up with solutions for non-revenue water management, particularly around financing non-revenue water. So Ware Capacity went into that competition and came out with very, very good results. I'm just going to share the results of that exercise, basically just to show what is possible in terms of water resources management and the opportunities for private sector to come into the water space, either as an investor or as a consumer, how you can manage water operations effectively. Now, just to describe non-revenue water, which when you see NRW, it basically means non-revenue water, is the difference between the volume of water that is produced and put into distribution and the volume that is billed. That means a utility produces water, meaning from the raw water, it treats it, puts it in a system, and it bills for that water that has been produced. Now, the challenge is that some utilities produce, let's say, 100 liters, but they are billing only for 20 liters. It means they have lost 80 liters. And so that's what non-revenue water is about, trying to show you what you're losing. And globally, in terms of the global water loss from non-revenue water, it's put at 126 billion meter cube per year. In financial terms, that is $39 billion every year. So you can imagine you're losing $39 billion every year from your operations. The benefits of non-revenue water management, you reduce operation cost. That means you reduce your cost of production because you're now producing less instead of more that's going to waste. So if you produce 100 liters and you're wasting 80 liters, that means your consumers or customers are getting only 20 liters. And that means you keep producing just to feed customer base that should actually get more, and you can even expand your operation. Increased revenue for the utility. The water that is lost means you've lost revenue. You've actually treated that water, you use human resources and you use material resources to produce that water, but you're losing that. Better water resource efficiency and conservation. So fresh water is depleting fast. And so the more we can conserve freshwater use, the better for our environment. And so the more water you abstract just to meet demand, and you end up losing that fresh water, and that's not good for conservative use of water. Then you can expand your water supply, because sometimes you see in most cities, supply is targeted at high income, middle income areas. The low income areas are ignored, because the utilities will say, look, you can't pay, or we don't have enough to expand. So you can now have enough to expand to low-income areas if you can conserve and reduce your losses in the system. With increasing demand, that's from population, agricultural use, and industrial activities, and more importantly, the climate change aspect that is depleting fresh water. Non-revenue water should be a priority for political actors and private entities. Now, there's a standard model for measuring non-revenue water. I won't go into this, but it's just to show you that there's a clear standard model that is used to arrive at non-revenue water, which includes water loss from real losses and apparent losses and unbilled consumption. Apparent losses basically means the losses from theft, people that can steal your water from your system and you're not aware of that, you're losing that water. Another aspect is where we see small leaks, so you can walk around and see a pipe leaking, but that pipe is leaking for over 24 hours every day and 30 days a month. So that's the biggest impact of loss. That's where the loss is biggest, because from real losses, you can see from the chart that small leaks account for the largest loss. So when you see the big leaks, you go ahead and fix that very quickly. But the small leaks, you just ignore them and say, okay, it's small. But those small leaks account for the largest level of losses from studies that have been carried out. Now, the vicious cycle of high water losses, poor services continues. If you don't fix the losses, then you keep providing poor services. At some point, the utilities just shut down. We have some cities in Nigeria that utilities are not even operational because they've gone out of business. They're not able to collect their bills because they're not supplying water. They're not supplying water because they are not able to collect their bills, and they can't really meet their maintenance cost. They can't meet their replacement cost. Just a vicious cycle of poor service, poor collection, and at some point you just shut down. Now, implementing non-revenue water, you need a lot of investment, and that's where private sector can come in, either from the planning point of view or the investment point of view, where you invest a lot of in a lot of equipment, but also operational, expertise and technology to ensure that you can actually achieve results. And so what did we do? I'm not going to mention the utility because the results didn't look very good and they were not very, they were happy with the output, but I don't think they want us to share that they were in that very, very bad shape. So what we did was we carried out a mapping of existing network and established a district metering area. So DMM is district metering area where you carry out a study to look at where water is coming in and where it's going. And you can now control and measure what is going into a particular part of the city. And you can now measure what's going out. Then you look at what has been consumed. So we carried that out, and the utility didn't have that system in place. We also installed bulk meters to carry out those measurements, and we looked at consistent measuring every day of consumption. And then we carried out the customer enumeration, which they didn't have a good database for customers. The result. From a small area of the city where we carried out the study, we just wanted to prove that you can lose water from that small area, then you can extrapolate that to the entire city. And now we went to an area that is very organized, where billing can be done with ease, and where the structures and the houses are well organized. So you have customers that are willing to pay, middle class. And so it shouldn't be a problem, getting your billing sorted, but also fixing the leaks. But interestingly, we found out that from 452 connections receiving water, only 181 was billed, and 271 unbilled customers. That means the utility was losing from those 271 customers. The interesting part again is that they had a leak every 2 days. So, and their response time was very, very, very low. They were not responding enough in terms of fixing leaks. So having 2 leaks every day, having customers not being billed, that actually impacted the utility negatively, and they were in such a very, very bad state. And so that got us to measuring their non-revenue water put at 66%. And we assumed that, we estimated that utility was losing ₦1 million every month from just that small estate we carried out the study. And so that was a very good data for the utility, because when we went to the utility at first, we told them, look, you're losing 3.6 billion naira every year from your entire operations. And they did not believe that. And so when we carried out the study, it proved that they were losing that amount of money. And that got them working up to improve their operations. And the main outcome was that the utility developed a non-revenue water management strategy, which they have put in place. They invested in equipment, they invested in people, they invested in data collection and the data analysis. They tried to improve their response time. They improved on customer engagement, they improved on communication, just to ensure that they could reduce non-revenue water to the barest minimum. Thank you very much. The next presentation is by Henneken. I don't know if Jody is on. Can you confirm if Jody is on? Jody, are you on?
He told you 11, it's not 11 yet.
Okay. So while we wait for Jody to join us, we'll just take the next presentation. I'm sure Godwin is on. Godwin is with the delegation of the German Industry and Commerce in Nigeria. And Godwin is going to tell us about the delegation, what they do, and basically the opportunity for collaboration with the delegation. Godwin is the head of Competence Center Energy and Environment, Delegation of German Industry and Commerce in Nigeria. Thank you very much, Godwin. If you have the slides ready, you can project them now.
Okay, thank you very much, Gabriel. Sorry, I thought I had more time. Good morning, everyone. My name is Godwin Igbokan. I work with the Delegation of German Industry and Commerce in Nigeria. The delegation is essentially the official representation of the German business community in Nigeria. We're part of a large network that has existed since 1894. And in Nigeria, we have been present for 40 years in Nigeria. We're part of a network, like I said, that includes 140 locations in 92 countries around the world. And our mandate essentially is to promote trade, bilateral trade between Nigerian companies and German companies. So I sit in the Energy and Environment Competence Center, and our job is to get Nigerian companies and German companies to collaborate together in the area of energy. And there have been several successful examples of that in the area of energy development for partnerships. This is just an overview of our broad services that we do to promote trade between Nigeria and Germany. We offer matchmaking services and address, you'll get the slide so you can be able to look at this. This just gives you an overview of the German companies in Nigeria that we work with, who are partners, who are part of our network, who we support here in Nigeria. So just to give you an overview of what we do in the water sector. Water is a bit of a new sector for us, but we are essentially copying our success in the area of energy, circular economy to water. So at the core of it is the business support for market entry and technology transfer between Nigerian companies and German companies. That's at our core. We're also trying to, we're exploring capacity building projects, because we also do a bit of capacity building for technical and vocational training, as well as renewable energy. We're trying to see how we can deploy that for water as well. We do market research and then project implementation for German ministries, especially the Ministry of Environment, the German Federal Ministry of Environment, and also we do events. And this is where the core of where my presentation is going to. Basically, our last event around the topic of water held last week. And during that event, the speakers there highlighted that the issue of water management in a city like Lagos is a bi-directional issue. So there's a topic of clean water supply and there's a topic of wastewater management. And this is where we see the opportunity for German and Nigerian companies to collaborate together, to share technology, and then to make business happen. So we believe that there is a feedback loop between efficient water resource management and ecosystem restoration, because when you have water pollution, then you are damaging marine ecosystems. And that is one of the reasons why Nigeria suffers from what they call the economic water scarcity. That is the inability to properly manage our water resources, to essentially cause socioeconomic development. Now, if you look at a city like Lagos, currently we're about 15 million people, and projections say that by 2040 we'll be about 30 million people. And the city, especially low-income people, face acute water shortages and the source water from contaminated sources. I mean, a lot of us are aware of the issue at Queen's College in 2017, where 2 students died and thousands were seriously sick. And there have been other incidents like that across the city. I'm using the Lagos issue to highlight where we feel like there's a potential for Nigerian and German companies to collaborate. Now, if you look at the Lagos lagoon, it is heavily polluted, and there's a lot of micropollutants, microplastics, organotoxins, mercury. But the main issue we see is, the pollution that comes from manufacturing activities and untreated sewage collected from domestic septic tanks and dumped into the lagoon. Even though there are public plants that are available to treat this wastewater before it released, but a study said about 94% gets dumped in directly like that. And what imperative does that create for us, as a city, as Lagos? The restoration of the lagoon is important for us to improve the availability of water for aquaculture, for irrigation, and it will help reduce the disease burden and restore the biodiversity, which is really our topic today. Now, this is where we feel like there's a lot of potential for collaboration, right? We believe that the overarching goal of any potential collaboration between for technology transfer, for partnerships, should focus on zero water discharge and water reuse. I mean, all the water available on the planet today was available at the time of the dinosaurs. So we're not making any new water, and we are actually reducing water, and the population of the earth is increasing. So we have to really look at the topic of zero discharge and water reuse very critically, because if it is possible in the International Space Station, then it is also possible here on Earth. We also believe that the focus should be on deploying distributed solutions, whether it's for water supply or for wastewater management. When it comes to water supply, we believe that the focus should be on simple modular solutions for water treatment and desalination. I think desalination is a topic that has not really been explored here in Nigeria, because a lot of people, whenever they think of desalination, they think of those really hot, big plants, very expensive technology, but there are simple modular solutions, most of them powered by renewable energy, most of them powered without batteries, that are available for treating water from streams or treating groundwater and providing that water to a localized region. For distributed wastewater management, there are technologies that are available for that. During our last webinar, a German company informed us that for the cost of 20% for what it will cost to build a proper waste treatment plant, you can have a simple waste treatment plant here in Lagos at the cost of 20% that will cost for that to build in Europe. And that would essentially remove 90% of the toxic chemicals, bad smells, pollutants, oils. And this could help a city like Lagos, prevent the discharge of these toxic chemicals into the lagoon. And we could even further pre-treat this water, increase its quality to the levels that can even be reused for irrigation. We also believe very strongly in multi-stakeholder collaboration, and we are very actively promoting the CEO water mandate to German companies in Nigeria to get them on board, to get them to sign up to it, and to get them to also improve their water stewardship. So this is a bit of an introduction into us here at the Delegation of German Industry and Commerce. We are available, we have offices in Lagos and in Abuja, and we look forward to working with all of you. And this is a list of our sources for this presentation, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Godwin. And it's interesting that you've actually zoomed in on the lagoon, because I think there's heavy pollution going on in Lagos, and lagoon is where you physically see it happen. Sometimes when it rains and you see all those things floating on the water, but also the smell or the color of the water, then you now know that the lagoon needs help. I think we all need help in fixing the lagoon. Thank you very much, Godwin. I think Jody is on now. Jody, are you ready to present?
Yeah, thank you. Hello. Thank you. We are ready. I'm here with Shade Morgan, my corporate affairs director. I think we need to look at here because we see you on the side. So maybe we are looking at the wrong.
So from what I see, you're looking up. Maybe I'm up above you. Eh?
Yeah. But we will look at the camera. We will look at the camera.
Okay. Okay. No, you can look up. That's fine. It means okay. I'm in the sky.
We don't have. I mean, we have some talking points, but not a presentation. If that's fine. About what is the situation for us, a little bit our perspectives on water, and the actions we are taking, and some of the reflections from it. So it's a brief talking points, if that's okay.
That's okay, Jody.
Okay, so let me go very quickly. I think, I've been 23 years in Heineken at the Heineken company, and just as a first reflection, I think the issue of water has become more and more. Let me take the mask. You keep your. It's been more and more an issue that's been increasingly a concern and an action for a company like ours. I remember 23 years ago when I joined the company, we were proud to say that it took 10 liters of water to make 1 liter of beer. For us, it was kind of that sense of pride. It needs 10 liters of water to make. And now, one of our key obsessions in the company is to reduce the usage of water. From those 10 liters. That was 23 years back when I joined the company. Now we're less than 3, and our aim is to get closer to 2. So one of our first obsessions is to use less water because we realize that water is really becoming a key issue, and it's going to be one of the most limiting factors for our company and for the society in which we operate and for the planet. You know, especially in Nigeria, in many of our sites and in water scarce area. So all the sites in the west, Ibadan, Lagos, etc. So those are sites that are really classified in water scarce areas. So for us, this is a real concern, and the first thing we need to do is to reduce the water usage. The second one is, I think I heard about some cost on recycling and reusing the water, and you know, I could only listen the last part where he was mentioning about 20% cost. I'm really looking forward to that, because in our case, we've invested heavily in water treatment plants. By the end of the year, all our breweries have state-of-the-art water treatment plants. Every water treatment plant costs us between $30–40 million. It's serious investment. It's one of the biggest investments in our breweries, and our aim is that any water that we use that goes back to the streams, it's a water that can be used. It can be used for irrigation, but it can go to the streams, to the river with no harm. So it's not a superficial water treatment; it's a serious one that removes not only the solids but the chemicals and balances to the right pH and the right composition of the water. So that's a very important one. But the aim of the company, and I think this is a long-term commitment and agenda, is to go for water balancing. Now, when I first heard this from the company, I didn't understand it well, and I saw some exercise. I was in a forum with all the managing directors of Heineken that we do once a year, and there was a presentation of Mexico. And Mexico's aim was to become water balanced. It means that we bring back to the nature the same amount of water that we use to produce our beers. And that bringing back to the nature for me was, you know, I was not, it was about reforestation and it's about doing the right things to bring back water. And honestly, that's a big ambition, and we are starting into that. Shadi can talk, but I find that's a very important one, and the company has set the stage. We are not leading as a company in Nigerian breweries. I have to confess, I'm learning from that. Other companies like Mexico, they're far ahead. And I hear that other OPCOs we are looking at, they're really as a benchmark that I would like to learn from companies in Nigeria. And one of my messages, this cannot be a standalone. I mean, if we look each company on its own, we are lost here. You know, we've been discussing with Shadi on the Asajiri Dam and the impact we see in the Asajiri Dam, how it's creating, the dam is losing, its water and the silting of and we need to do something together. And I think in this whole water discussion, a company narrow view is not enough. My understanding is we will not be able to do all the agenda and really play in the right way if we act, you know, as a single company. And I think some of that is still happening today. We are not talking enough. Well, I was very pleased that there was this discussion. Some of these interventions cannot be done at the company level. It cannot be. Yeah. And some of them, you know, when we build a water treatment plant in Nigerian breweries, it's a stupid thing to do a water treatment plant for us, where it could be done for other companies at the same cost. I think it's a stupid thing. It's narrow-minded, and we could better invest those monies in doing so. But I don't think we see this today I think it's still much as a competitive advantage. We should stop thinking like that. So I hope I don't say too many stupid things, Shadi, and please correct me. But these are the few stakes that I would say. I think we are on the journey. We can do much more as Nigerian breweries. I don't think we do enough. We do much better than we did years ago. So we take it seriously. And for us, it's a concern for the planet, for the survival of our business. Honestly, not just thinking about the planet, which we do, even for the survival of our business. If there's no water, there's no beer. We won't survive. And it's not a fake statement. We are really concerned about this. So Shadi, back to you if there's any other thing, and correct everything stupid that I've said.
I think it's really great that somebody was able to join us on this call. This is exactly what it's about. The CEOs all endorsing to the man. So thank you very much for the briefing note. I'll take off my mask now. But in the briefing note, I can see that we have about 175 companies that have signed up globally. And the
So the audio is not clear.
Oh, can you hear me better now?
Perfect, is better.
Okay, yeah. Great. I was just emphasizing that it would be really good for the CEO Water Mandate to drive the collaboration across companies, just to Jodi's point. So I can see that there are 175 companies globally that have endorsed this commitment, which is fantastic. And yes, including Heineken. And Jennifer is our head of sustainability. She's sitting here with us as well. You can't see her, but it's really impressive. But the challenge is, how do we ensure that locally here in Nigeria, we can leverage on the investments that have been made by these global companies? We have our wastewater treatment plant. We have various investments and initiatives that we are driving as Nigerian breweries and as a subsidiary of Heineken that has made that global commitment. So we have a lot of initiatives that we are driving. We have the 600,000 trees that we have planted at Olokomeji, and this is towards water balancing, having identified that we have a watershed opportunity in Oyo State. But this is us doing it individually. How can we leverage this global commitment? How can we leverage this group so that we can now really start to optimize these investments? But so that's really what we have to share, and we can definitely share a lot more about what Nigerian Breweries is doing. I have a lot of detail on that, but I don't want to. I see we have just 10 minutes, and the question for us really is, let's have the collaboration. Let's see how we can all work together to really drive the agenda of the SDG goal. And not to compete. You can see, yes, this is not one area where we should be competing with other beverage producers, for example. Yeah. So Jennifer is here. Jennifer, do you have anything you would like to add? No?
Well, not really. Not really.
No, okay.
Yes,
let's see if there are any questions. Thank you. Or comments.
Thank you very much. I think what you've shared is quite interesting. Yes, I can confirm you can't make beer without water. I can confirm that one. Then it's very interesting to note that you're already facing real challenges. When you have a dam that is silting and can operate at its capacity, then you're already having less water or less head than you planned for. But also investing in wastewater treatment that can be done as collaboration, where you have entities use one instead of buying 10. You can just use one and make best use of that capacity. But also looking at studies and trying to get solutions within a basin. So for instance, you're already talking about what's happening with your operations. It's impacting on your business directly. So it's a very good experience and a very good lesson we're learning today that yes, its reality is already happening to Heineken, and I'm sure it's happening to other businesses. And so I think the CEO Water Mandate is actually coming at the right time. We have opportunity for synergy here. So yeah, we look forward to engaging with you and trying to ensure the private sector can show that collaboration can work and improve on sustainable water resources management. As a private sector group as well, you can also influence policy, because we have a water resources management policy and a law that has been pending and it's dragging for quite a long time. That is impacting significantly on how we manage water resources in Nigeria, particularly on the regulatory side, because if there's no strong regulation, then you will not have people complying. That's why you can have the lagoon being heavily polluted because no treatment is going in. Thank you very much, Jody, and your colleagues there. That was very, very interesting. There are questions coming in during the fire chat. We will call you to respond to some of those questions. Let's go back to introduction and opportunities for collaboration. We have Oyetola Oduyemi, who is the Director of Public Affairs at the N Fund. Oyetola will be taking us through what N Fund is about, but also the opportunities for collaboration. Oyetola, if you're on, please, you can just project your slides.
Thank you again. I think your team will be helping with the slides. Okay. So good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Permit me to stand on existing protocol. I'm pleased to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. I will be opening up the conversation a bit further. I will be speaking on the topic One Health, leveraging water, sanitation and hygiene and environmental improvements to end neglected tropical diseases. Next slide, please. Okay, so in commemoration of the World Environment Day, I'll commence my presentation by looking through the lens of One Health, a collaborative, multi-sectoral and transdisciplinary approach that recognizes the interconnectedness of people, animals, plants, and the environment. It seeks to harness the power of stakeholders working at local, regional, national, and global levels in order to achieve optimal health outcomes for all. In speaking to this slide, I have adopted a visual of the iceberg, which many systems thinkers here will likely recognize from the book Systems Thinking for Social Change by David Straw. Its and his premise is that applying systems thinking principles and tools enables us to achieve better results with fewer resources in more lasting ways. In times past, we had implemented a siloed perspective and methodology, decoupling human health from any other group, animals, plants, and even the environment. Many emerging human health challenges have since shown the error of this, including most recently the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. The iceberg metaphor shows the importance of leveraging a systems-based approach to learn, proactively plan, and to create positive change, such as focusing on synergistic and high leverage interventions to holistically drive the sustainable development of Nigeria. Good health for all, man and environment alike, is certainly worthy of this methodology. In recognition of the critical bearing of the environment on health for all and vice versa, Nigeria in 2019 launched a national One Health strategic plan that integrates human, animal, and environmental health management for improved health security. The plan was jointly developed by the Federal Ministries of Health, Agriculture and Rural Development, and Environment, as well as their agencies, and it covers a 5-year period from 2018 to 2023. Next slide, please. Having spoken to the intersection of the environment and health, I'd like to highlight why this is important by introducing to you the End Fund. We are an international development initiative, and our mission is to end 5 of the most prevalent neglected tropical diseases. And I should quickly interject and say that it's actually not the diseases that are neglected, but the people, because of their socioeconomic status, the people that are typically affected. And these are usually the world's poorest and most vulnerable people. Our vision is to ensure that people at risk of neglected tropical diseases can live healthy and prosperous lives. The End Fund was birthed in 2012 and commenced operations in Nigeria in 2013. We identify Nigeria as a priority country on the continent as it has the single largest neglected tropical diseases, or NTDs for short, prevalence, bearing a little over 40% of Africa's burden for NTDs. In Nigeria, to date, we have distributed about 126.5 million treatments and treated over 66 million people. Now, usually there's co-endemicity for the diseases that we tackle. So that means that people are typically affected by more than one at a time. And that's why you see that, we've treated about 66 million people, but, the number of treatments that we have distributed is easily times 2 that. We have also trained more than 245,000 health workers and work with a range of local implementing partners to drive country ownership and sustainability of our work. Next slide, please. So the NTDs are a group of parasitic and bacterial infectious diseases. More than 1.7 billion people across the world are affected, including over 1 billion children. In Nigeria, according to the latest figures from the World Health Organization, The total population affected by NTDs is a staggering 134.5 million people, or 2/3 of Nigerians. And the most common NTDs are intestinal worms. So 45 million people require treatment. And I should also clarify that when we say treatment, there's preventive treatment and there's curative treatment. So people that are in communities that are predisposed to having these diseases, or where there's a prevalence of these diseases, require treatment. And so we have 45 million Nigerians that require treatment from one or more of the intestinal worms. And then for lymphatic filariasis, we have 134 million people requiring treatment. This is almost the total number of the entire NTD burden for Nigeria. And the reason for this is because, as you see from the icon that is there, it's a mosquito. The same mosquito that causes malaria also causes the vector that, carries the parasite for lymphatic filariasis. And so almost as many people in Nigeria as are at risk of malaria are at risk for lymphatic filariasis. We have 50 million Nigerians that require treatment from river blindness. And for schistosomiasis, which is after malaria, is the world's most fatal and most deadly parasitic infection. And Nigeria is actually considered one of the hotspots, one of the headquarters, if you like, for schistosomiasis. And we have 25 million people that require treatment. And then for trachoma, which is the world's leading cause of preventive blindness, we have 14 million people that require treatment. Next slide, please. So there are multi-dimensional benefits to tackling the NTDs, and these include positive impacts in the areas of education. So when children are, have reduced illness bouts because of effective tackling of NTDs, there's less school absenteeism, and then reduced levels of cognitive impairments. Quite a few of the NTDs, especially in children, cause loss of cognitive development. And so tackling the NTDs, reduces levels of cognitive impairment. And then when you come to health, the obvious one is health. SDG3 speaks to health. What a lot of people don't pay attention to is SDG 3.3, it's target 3, which actually speaks to ending the epidemics of malaria, tuberculosis, AIDS, and the NTDs. So they actually specifically mentioned under SDG 3 target 3. And so that is the obvious one. But apart from those diseases specifically, there's decreased anemia. So quite a few of the NTDs that we tackle also cause anemia. And so tackling them leads to reduced levels nationally for anemia. Blindness, I mentioned two of the NTDs that we tackle, river blindness and trachoma that cause blindness. And so tackling them reduces that. And also vulnerability to other diseases. So when we talk about schistosomiasis, especially urogenital schistosomiasis, which women and children and girl children are predisposed to, the way it affects us just because of our physical composition, it predisposes women and girls to getting infected by sexually transmitted diseases. And so tackling schistosomiasis reduces the vulnerability to other diseases. For the economy, improved labor productivity and long-term economic gains. If people are not sick, if they are able to work, that leads to increased levels of productivity and long-term economic gains. For nutrition, there's reduced stunting, there's improved food and vitamin absorption, from tackling the NTDs. And finally, for disability, apart from blindness, which I mentioned earlier, reduced disability such as the inability to walk. So I mentioned lymphatic filariasis. It's probably more commonly known by the advanced form of elephantiasis. It's the same thing. So elephantiasis is the secondary form of lymphatic filariasis. And of course, it reduces or takes away the ability to walk. And so tackling it reduces that. And there's also a reduction in morbidity through surgery and treatment, where people who are already affected are getting the treatment that they need through drugs or through surgery. There's reduction in morbidity. Next slide, please. So now to water, sanitation, and hygiene, closing the gap to end NTDs. We're by now familiar with many of the statistics. About 1/3 of the global population lacks access to good sanitation facilities. And in Nigeria, according to UNICEF, 1/3 of the population drinks contaminated water at home, and at least 167 million people in their homes do not have access to hand washing facilities. Bringing this to the NTDs, NTDs thrive in areas where there's a lack of basic sanitation. So alongside MDAs, which are mass drug administration campaigns, is the major way that we tackle the diseases that we tackle. Water sanitation and hygiene is critical in the prevention and care for all NTDs. Improved wash can result in a 29% decrease in illness from Ascaris, that's the roundworm, one of the intestinal worms. Improved wash conditions can reduce the trachoma burden by 27%, and basic sanitation can reduce schistosomiasis by as much as 77%. Coupled with poor water, sanitation, and hygiene conditions, NTDs do more than sicken. They keep children out of school and adults out of work, denying them the educational and economic opportunities they need to break the vicious cycle of poverty. The prevention, control, and eventual elimination of many NTDs depend heavily on the availability of improved water, sanitation, and hygiene in endemic communities. The adoption of water, sanitation, and hygiene practices are critical in order to interrupt ongoing transmission of prevalent NTDs, to treat current cases in affected people. One of the major ways through which elephantiasis is managed is by constantly washing the foot with water and soap. And of course, that requires wash. And this adoption is also required to treat current cases in affected people and prevent future transmission scenarios from reemerging via human practices that facilitate animal-human contact or human vector contact, such as cooking with unclean water or open defecation. Next slide, please. The systems approach. When optimally done, the provision of healthy water, combined with good sanitary and hygienic habits, will lead to healthy people who can create a healthy environment and healthy economies. The theme of this year's World Environment Day, Ecosystem Restoration, speaks to the reinstatement of a balanced scorecard of sorts as we assess and mainstream healthy interactions between all forms of life and the environment. Adoption of a One Health framework holds the key to achieving this. And the last slide, please. Managing water supplies so they become neither depleted nor polluted, and providing good sanitation are central to the health of communities and the environments on which they depend. The CO Water Mandate is focused on co-creating and advancing healthy water sustainability, and the End Fund is well positioned to support this initiative through community engagement, public policy framing and influencing, and through collective action. We welcome an opportunity to work with you all in driving and advancing Nigeria's WASH agenda while ending the suffering and the neglect caused by the entities in our lifetime and on our watch. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oyetola Oduyemi, for this interesting presentation. I think it's very clear that if you're working in the water space, one of the major impacts in terms of your performance or your indicators for performance is health. And so if you're not fixing health, which pollution and poor quality water can actually impact significantly, then you're not achieving results. So thank you very much. We look forward to working with NFund to see how health impact can be achieved using the CEO Water Mandate platform. There are some questions for you as well, but we'll just wait till the fire chat discussion session. The next session is the fire chat, and I'll basically go through the questions that have been asked. Then also we'll get participants that are responsible to respond. But also before that, while we wait for the questions to be collated, before that, I have some direct questions to ask some of the resource persons, based on the areas they have presented. So I'll just basically start with Oyetola, who is the last presenter. Now, looking at the NTDs you presented, and also looking at what's happening in Nigeria in terms of lack of data, what do you think the CEO water mandate should look at in terms of data collation, working with NFON, basically to understand the impact of this data of health in terms of water quality and how it impacts health, but also where is this happening and what is happening where. So, for instance, you might have different health implications in different areas. So what do you think we can do in terms of data to help support achieving health outcomes?
So thank you very much for this question, Ekanem. At the End Fund, we are we're very passionate about our data. It's very important for the work that we do, from tracking communities that have endemicity for one or that has prevalence for one or more of the NTDs, to the different causes, to the impact and the monitoring and evaluation of the interventions that we're introducing. And so data is a very important one. And I think we had spoken on this earlier. We welcome the opportunity to partner with the NESG. We have partnered, we have collaborated with different data experts, from the economic intelligence units, which did a study on the economic impact of tackling the NTDs for 4 African countries, because we do work in about 30 countries around the world. So we've done that collaboration just to get the data, to go to the field, to tease out the nuances and what the facts are saying on the field, to see what is the economic implication of tackling the NTDs, and the results have been very interesting. And we are currently also partnering with Dalberg to carry out a similar impact assessment study in Niger, the impact of tackling the NTDs. And we found that just in terms of savings for national budgets to GDP growth, there's so many opportunities or so many facts that buttress the importance of tackling the NTDs and water sanitation and hygiene. Because we find that when we focus on just the medicine aspect of it, it's a vicious cycle. So people get infected, we treat them, and they get reinfected. So there's also things like water sanitation and hygiene, which are really critical to tackling the NTDs. And so, like I said, we welcome the opportunity to partner with the NSG in carrying out a similar study in Nigeria, and other organizations or interested, participants on the call that are able to work with us in this regard, so that we can continue to build our fact file on, on this area that is not static, it's dynamic. And so we have to keep on, testing, iterating, and carrying out our initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Oyetola. Just going back to Heineken, I don't know if Jody, if you're still on, I'm just trying to link the impact on health, but also what you're invested in terms of water treatment, because most of the challenges in terms of health impact comes from poor quality water or heavily polluted water. We had an incident somewhere in the eastern Nigeria where a pharmaceutical dumped effluent into a stream, and downstream, people just started dying. So what would you say is the best option, for collaboration in terms of, tackling water treatment, where you've invested quite a lot in terms of treatment, and I'm sure there are other companies within your basin invested in it as well in treatment. Is it possible to have a collaboration where you have like a central treatment where companies can invest and also, basically not invest so much or more than they need to invest in treatment, and with the support of government for effective regulation, because if you don't have regulation on the other hand, then companies can still discharge raw effluent into water bodies. What would you say is the best way to collaborate on water treatment? Judy, are you on? Okay, Jody is not responding. I think I can just take that same question to Godwin. because Godwin, you also talked about the German companies, that are investing in water treatment products. Is it possible to have a collaboration? What structure do you think is feasible?
So, I mean, looking at some of the projects we've done in the past in the area of energy, right? Because like I said, water is new for us, and we're trying to see how we can take some of the learnings we've had and some of the successes we've had in the area of energy and promoting German-Nigerian collaboration in the water space as well. Looking at some of those, I mean, I think German technology is very suitable and customizable for the Nigerian market. There are different options and business models that we are looking at, different platforms we are looking at to see how we can promote such penetration of German technology into the market. So I think the kinds of structures that would work would be structures based on, partnerships, right? Based on getting both partners to have a skin in the game. We've seen that a lot in the energy space, especially in the mini grid space, where German companies collaborate, bring some equity, the Nigerian partners bring some equity, and that has worked. And I think that is also possible in the area of water, and we're looking at exploring such business models. But first and foremost, we have to have the right kind of legislation, legislation. Because, for instance, if you look at mini grids, why it was so successful, because there was a clear legislation that enabled the German companies to say, okay, this is the direction of government, this is the protection we're going to have. So with clear legislation, with clear regulations, it is possible to have such structures where both partners contribute to effectively build water treatment plants across the country.
Yeah, thank you, Godwin. I think I agree, totally with regulation, because if you don't have strong regulations in place, then private entities or even government entities will not comply, and so you need to have strong regulation, to go with collaborations and all that. But I think the word I want to pick from what you just said is equity. And Paddy's presentation, speaks to investment. Private sector as an investor. Is it really possible to have that kind of structure where you can have private entities coming in to be investors because they look at their bottom line as well? So I don't know if Nestle is still on, but Jody, are you back on? Okay, so Paddy, I don't know if you can look at equity again, using the example of, waste management, wastewater treatment facilities. If you can look at wastewater treatment facilities that can reduce how much pollution is happening in our water bodies, but also which will have direct impact on diseases. How do you think equity can really work, looking at the investment chain or investment opportunity that you shared earlier, in terms of the spectrum of private sector participation? What do you think is a possible structure for equity holders to come into investing in water treatment facilities?
Thank you very much for the question. And kind of, when you kept saying equity, I was thinking equity as an inclusiveness. But I don't know if that's what you mean, or if you mean equity as an economic aspect of it. So which one is it? Just to clarify.
Is that a question for Godwin?
No, I think it's equity as an investment.
Okay.
Yeah, equity as an investment.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So yes, I mean, they're not exclusive of each other anyway, but it's good to clarify. So in terms of equity and how people can come in, there'll be different options. So clearly from the conversations we're having this morning, we already see that there's a lot of room for collaboration amongst the private sector players. So that would be one point of entry. So where you have the private sector teaming up, whether to cover a region or to cover a state or to cover a locality within a state, So that would be one option. But of course, there's also always the PSP. So you could have the private sector collaborating with the public sector and then finding ways of investing together. So you're not having the public sector only as a regulator, but also as an active participant, as a co-investor, more or less. And then I think there are also conversations around having investment funds, because part of the risks, like we mentioned earlier, is this idea that, oh, the initial investment is really high, and then sometimes there's a problem of recouping, especially if you have to provide in communities where people are possibly, it's not just a question of not being willing, but maybe not just able to fund access to these services. So if you have an investment fund and there's some kind of insurance, then that strengthens the confidence of the investors to come in and put in the funds required for the projects to take off. So pulling together resources into an investment fund that is insured, of course, there are mechanisms for doing that, the insurance bit of it would also be a way of strengthening confidence. In terms of who to drive this, of course, the government has to be heavily involved. So I think in a sense, it will be about pursuing private sector collaboration, but also ensuring that there's some kind of partnership with the public sector as well, as a way of providing some kind of insurance for the funds that are brought in. And then I think whatever models are pursued, there has to be a reflection of how to employ cross subsidies, because in a lot of the cases right now, we have services being subsidized anyway, but the subsidies aren't really applied I wouldn't say they're applied in the smartest of ways, because what we then find is that we are subsidizing people who can actually afford the services by themselves. So this needs to be addressed so that we make the most of whatever investments are brought in to expand, the equity side of things in terms of actually being inclusive. Yeah, I hope that addresses the question. Thank you.
Yeah, sure does. Thank you very much, Paddy. And I think I'll just go back to Jody, if Jody is still on. Jody, are you back on? Okay, so what I really wanted to get from Jody was, what the possibilities are, and how and the private entities can really collaborate. But I think with the CEO Water mandate, we're looking forward to developing the right tools and the processes that can engage private entities to ensure that we have possible investment, possible positive actions, possible direct operation actions that can help reduce impact of poor quality water in our system, but also improve sustainable water resources management in Nigeria. We also look forward to influencing government, because if you don't have government playing a significant role in this, particularly around policies and regulation and laws that can govern water resources management, then we might not really be able to make the impact we look forward to. Now, I'll just go to some of the questions we have. Some have been responded, some resource persons have responded already to some of the questions. So we won't go over those ones. We'll just focus on the ones that will need response. First one is from Michael Ali. Michael is the National President, Borehole Master Drillers Association of Nigeria, ODROP. His question is, private sector idea is to maximize profit. I like hearing that. To maximize profit. Players in the sector are against regulation. I disagree with that, which is not the sustainable best practice as played in other climes. How can regulation support sustainability and control standard and investment in the industry? So first is you say private sector, likes to maximize profit. Yes, that's true. But being against regulation, I would agree with that, because if there's no regulation, I can tell you private entities can invest. So if you don't have regulation that decides who does what, who decides what price, competition, there are some regulations in place that are minimum that the private sector wants to see before they can invest. I think Jody's hand is up. Jody, are you on now?
Thank you very much, Gabriel. No, this is not Jody. Jody had to step out. We're juggling so many balls at the same time. But I really did want to speak to the question that was addressed to him. I think it had to do with the wastewater treatment plants and the potential for collaboration or investment.
And I think, well, for us, this is an area where we have already gone into contract, we have commissioned these projects, and so therefore, really, they would be, as Jody said, completed by the end of the year. However, that said, in terms of opportunities for collaboration, we're very keen for support collaboration on the water balancing project. Okay, I see something about starting my video, apologies. Okay, we're very keen on the Olokomeji forestation exercise that we're carrying on, which is a water balancing project in Ogun State. We're going to be planting about 600,000 trees by 2030. And we've committed about 500 million naira to this project. Now, this is something that is definitely a great opportunity for any company that wants to be part of this, because of course you can then use the data, use the statistics of the value of the water balancing that we're able to achieve for your own records and track and basically footprints of what the efforts that you're making as regards water balancing. So I feel that there are so many areas for collaboration. This is just one of them. We also have other initiatives in terms of alternative energy that we are running investments. We're also looking at the northern part of Nigeria for, thank you, Jason, for alternative energy from water, so from the dam. And that's something also that we could partner on. Thank you. I just wanted to throw in those two as regards the other opportunities for alternative energy and also water balancing. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I think for water balancing, I think that will have to be priority for the CEO water mandate, because one of the components of our strategy is to look at how we identify the areas of risk, but at a basin level. So within your basin, within the basin where Ogun State is, what we call it in Nigeria is hydrological area. Exactly. We can identify other key actors within that hydrological area, and you will have the same risk. You have common risks to face. So it's just it just makes sense for you to collaborate to reduce the impact of that risk on your operations. So it's something we will put as priority, and we look forward to working with you and your team on that. Okay, thank you very much. So let's just go over other questions. Michael Ali, I hope I've responded, because one regulation is very significant for private entities, particularly around investment. So if you don't have strong regulations in place, you will not have investment coming in. So either on the wastewater management side, if there's no strong regulation that looks at effluent, then no private entity is going to invest in procuring waste treatment facilities. If you don't have strong regulation on tariff, and no private sector will want to invest in water utilities. So regulation is very, very important for the private sector, and no private entity wants to run away from regulation. They just need to be very clear, and they also have to be complied with. Government must stick to their regulations, not changing regulations within a short period of time. That will discourage investment. Paddy, your hand is up. I don't know if you have a.
Yes, please. Just to add very quickly that beyond having regulations, it's also important to look at the quality of the regulations, because sometimes we like to think that once something is regulated, then the outcome would be positive. But I think we also need to think critically about what the regulation states and how that affects the outcomes for the environment, for the service providers, and then for the consumers as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. So that's why it's important that we also look at the regulations before they are made laws. So, for instance, the existing Water Resources Bill that will set up a regulatory authority is something the private sector is looking at. The NESG is also engaging, seriously around how that law, that bill becomes law, but also if there are aspects of the bill that will impact negatively on either the environment or business, then we will have to discuss that with the National Assembly. So yes, within the CEO water mandate, we'll also look at how we influence regulations, so that they are positive on the environment and also on business. Another question, I mean, there are a few questions that we'll have to skip, but this one is about, is it evident that water is a major driver of health and so many others? How can this water crisis be solved, taking into account that the climate crisis is also a water crisis? What is the government doing in this regard? Okay, so the question is asking what government is doing. I'm not sure if we have government people involved in this. However, I know that there's a bill in terms of water resources bill in the National Assembly that will significantly impact positively on the water resources space of Nigeria. And so if that bill becomes law, we will have Nigeria water resources space managed based on hydrological areas. And you will now have catchment management offices that will look at basin level challenges or risk, and they will work within that basin to resolve that risk, because everyone within the basin will be facing the same risk. So in terms of what government is doing, yes, there's a bill in National Assembly, but also beyond the bill, there are policies in place that can look at water supply, water and sanitation, and other issues related to water. However, what the CEO Water Mandate will do, working with NESG and the UNGCN, is that we will, look at areas where we can really have impact in terms of policies, in terms of regulations, that will be positive for the environment, but also for business operations in Nigeria. Another question from Oluwaseyi. Are there water management institute in Nigeria? Yes, there's a National Water Resources Institute in Nigeria. It's in Kaduna. What have they been doing? In addition, what roles has the federal and state legislators played in this issue? Now, there's a Water Resources Management Institute in Kaduna. It's a well-run institute. They do a lot of studies. They've had, projects commissioned. They have a JICA center that is very well equipped, very well resourced, and so it's something you can take a look at. They also have courses on water resources and water supply. And so, yes, that has been running over a very long period of time. So, yeah, there's a Water Resources Management Institute. However, what have they been doing? Yes, they have been commissioning research. For instance, the dam referred to by Jody, the dam getting silted. I know the Water Resources Management Institute has released a report that has looked at all the dams that are performing way below their capacity. And so it's left for the government to engage in and commission desilting projects, which I know is very, very expensive. So the government is not able to do that as should be done. So that's where private sector can come in, and whether through investment or through just making sure that your operations can be more effective because you've been part of desilting the dam that supplies your business. Let's see if there's one last question we can take. How can German companies compete on machineries without compromising quality and standard? We are interested in several opportunities with German companies. I think that question is from Michael Oludare and is strictly for Godwin. Godwin, you want to respond to that?
Maybe I can give it to somebody else to respond. No, of course I don't. German companies, I think the realization now in Germany is that competition is global, and solutions have to be adaptable to contexts. So German companies have made those sort of changes while retaining their stamp on quality. They are able to present modular solutions adaptable to country situations and that are also effective. A case in point was a German company that developed a wastewater treatment solution for a village in Mali. Very cheap, very simple. That company can do either very simple solutions, right, in the desert region like Mali, or very complex solutions for large industries, Coca-Cola, Heineken breweries, and the rest of them, hotels, and the rest of them. So it depends. the solutions are adaptable, they are scalable. So if you are particularly interested in a particular technology or opportunity, please contact me, and then I can see what I can do to help you get in touch with the right German company. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Godwin. Okay, so there's a question from Dorothy Bassi. Can we be more specific about the regulations and how they impact on the goals identified? Now, the regulations, depending on the subsector in the water resources space, so either natural occurrence of water, so how you regulate abstraction, or how you regulate, water use. There's also water supply regulation. You can look at tariff for utilities, but also you can look at utility effluent management, but also look at quality. What quality of water are you supplying to the public, but also the hours of supply. There are service levels that you want to meet, and a regulator within a state that looks at water supply regulation will have to look at tariff, quality, and hours of supply and pressure of supply sometimes. So yeah, there are different levels of regulations depending on the subsector of water resources. There's also the wastewater regulation aspect, which I know we have the National Environmental Standards Regulatory body that is responsible for that. But I think the private sector is also a key player, because at some point you might dump effluent thinking, yeah, that is good for business. I don't have to invest in wastewater management or wastewater treatment. But downstream, you might have to abstract from that same source, which will have you have more expensive, or the cost of your treatment will go high because of heavy pollution. So if we can collaborate and ensure that our sources are clean and remain safe, then we will have a good environment, either for our staff or for our personnel or for operations, water being input for your operation, but also the business environment in general will be better off. We have a comment from Evelyn Mary. Evelyn, thank you for sending a comment. I think Evelyn, you're part of the family already. It will be great for the private sector companies to play a big role in collaboration with federal government. That is key. I think what we want to do is, as part of the CEO Water mandate, is to galvanize the private sector first, so that we have a common platform, common voice. Then we identify the challenges. Then we engage government as a common group. That way we can have more effective engagement. The same way in terms of projects, whether it's basin level projects or direct operations projects, we can learn from each other, share knowledge. That way we can have the benefits of collaboration. So yes, we will engage with government. We have been doing that. During the launch of the CEO Water mandate, the Minister for Water Resources was part of the event. He is very excited. He's looking forward to our first meeting with him to share what we think needs to be done in the water resources management space of Nigeria. Evelyn also talked about self-regulatory mechanism should be put in place under the CEO Water mandate. Yes, I don't know if you listened to Jody's, not Jody, I think Nestle's presentation, where they talked about water use within the facility. But also Jody talked about moving from 10 liters to produce a bottle of beer to 3 liters of water. So that is actually regulating in terms of water use. So that's a significant part of the CEO Water mandate. I mean, all other companies can learn from the ones that have already implemented self-regulatory mechanisms. We'll make sure this is made available to other companies to learn from and try to implement them. NFON water takes a critical importance when it comes to sustainable development goals. Can NFON focus on the area of funding groundwater? Okay, this is from Michael again. Michael, I know you love groundwater, that's your business. So NFON is looking at NTDs. So I think there are other players that can look at groundwater, but NFON will only look at groundwater, mainly on the quality that will impact health. But I don't know, Oyetola, you want to respond to that before we close the Q&A session?
Thank you for that question. So yes, like Ekanem has noted, we have our areas, our core areas of specialization, and for the work that we do, we focus on tackling the diseases, and then WASH, which is a correlated area. So to the extent that we're able to expand what we're doing to the field that you mentioned, that is not something that we're looking at the moment. However, if you noted, during my presentation, we're very huge on systems thinking. And so if we're able, and that's why we're pleased to be part of this conversation, if we're able to harness, bring to the table what we can, the thinking and the systems that we have, and then have other players that are able to bring other critical areas to collectively drive water sustainability for Nigeria, we're always happy to have those sort of conversations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that ends our fireside discussion and the Q&A session. And I think we'll just move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the sign-up event and establishment of a working group. Now that will be taken by Naomi Nwokolo. Naomi is Executive Director, UN Global Compact in Nigeria. She'll be taking us through the sign-up event we're looking at later this month, where we have business leaders come to sign up to the CEO Water Mandate. We'll actually have an event to make sure that we upscale the brand of CEO Water Mandate in Nigeria, but also use our opportunity to mobilize private sector to sign up to the mandate. She'll also be telling us about the working group we're setting up to implement the plans of the CEO Water Mandate. Naomi, please.
Thank you, Akanem, and thank you everyone for your contribution so far. It is very interesting to see the interest coming from all the key stakeholders here today. So we can see that it is very essential for all of us to engage in new strategic partnerships to launch innovations when necessary, like that of the CEO Water Mandate we are having today. So in our efforts to implement and operationalize the CEO Water Mandate, I am pleased to announce that the Environmental Thematic Working Group of the UN Global Compact in Nigeria and the WASH Thematic Working Group of the Policy and Infrastructure Policy Commission of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group have now collaborated to establish a working group mainly focused on the CEO Water Mandate. We know that in this decade of action for the SDGs, forging partnerships is the only way forward to deliver the goals. So we are hereby encouraging everyone here, both multinational companies, SMEs, NGOs, academia, civil society organizations, even governments, and everyone to join this working group so that we can actualize water stewardship practices in Nigeria. In the coming days, we'll be sending you invitation emails to join the working group and also more information on how your company can endorse the CEO Water Mandate while preparing for the main events that we'll be having in July. So in July, we'll be having an official signing up process of the CEO Water Mandate. We'll communicate whether it's going to be virtual or physical. More information will be sent to you in that regard. And please feel free to reach out to either of us from the NESG or the UNGC if you have more questions. Mr. Moderator, please permit me to use this opportunity to encourage participants of this event who are not yet members of the UN Global Compact, but are interested in advancing their sustainability journey, to please join the United Nations Global Compact. The United Nations Global Compact, as pronounced, is a special initiative of the UN, calling on businesses everywhere to take a principle-based approach in doing business and taking actions on the SDGs. In the midst of the pandemic, the UN Global Compact launched our 2021 to 2023 strategy. And the strategy holds at its core the strategic ambition of the United Nations Global Compact, which is to accelerate and scale the global collective impact of business by upholding the 10 principles and delivering the SDGs through accountable companies and enabling ecosystems that will enable change. We are going to paste our information on the chat, so feel free to reach out to us. We look forward to working with you on the implementation and operationalization of the CEO Water Mandate in Nigeria, and also on advancing sustainable business in Nigeria as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. We look forward to confirming the dates, in July for the sign-up event, but also getting private entities, at this event, to indicate interest. We will set up the working group as well, but we look forward to having everyone, participate in that solution to sustainable resources, water resources management in Nigeria. And there are questions still coming in. You can still send your questions in because I see questions still coming in. We will send you answers to those questions, and we'll direct them to the right resource persons to respond to your questions. And now for the closing, we have Mr. Nana Imude. Nana is a board member of the NESG and also the Chief Executive Officer of Aegon Continental. Nana will give us a closing remark for the event. But please, this event doesn't end here. We will continue discussions. We have the contacts. Please, send in your questions, send in your comments, and we will, get back to you. Nana, please. Thank you. Nana, you're still on mute, eh?
Okay, thank you very much, Gabriel. Let me begin by thanking our partners, the UN Global Compact in Nigeria, for this collaboration to deliver this event. I also want to thank in a special way today's speakers and all the participants. Like Gabriel said, your contributions to this event will go a very long way in the work that we do within the water and sanitation space. As we all know, and we have all acknowledged, water is central to human development. And so it requires all stakeholders to work together in ensuring sustainable water resource management, especially for us in the private sector. And so the NESG remains committed to this, and the Water and Sanitation Thematic Group of the Infrastructure Policy Commission will continue to lead our efforts in this direction. As was mentioned earlier, the CEO Water Mandate was launched last October, and so we continue to call on all companies to sign up, not just for water stewardship, but also to foster collaboration, which has been said over and over again, and then very importantly, to unlock investments in our water sector. With that said, I know it's been a long day. I once again thank everyone, and we look forward to continuing the effort and the work that we are doing in promoting sustainable resource water management. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Nana, for that closing remark. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. We look forward to a sign-up event where you will be part of, where you can come in and sign up to the CEO Water Mandate. But also we look forward to interacting and collaborating with you in the near future. There are several challenges and risks in terms of water, but through collaboration, we can actually have synergy and have more impact in terms of effective water resources management in Nigeria. Thank you everyone for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.